good, the true, the beautiful, in everything we find. Aesthetic cloud, we strive to make a world that's kind and bright.
Good afternoon. It's 2 p.m. on April 14, 2026, our 12th in-person meeting of our 143rd year of the Little Rock Aesthetic Club. Please, as always, silence your cell phones and switch them to the airplane mode so that Len can do his recording without interruption. If you haven't signed the guest book when you came in, or the attendance book, please sign it on your way out. I know every now and then people forget and there's gaps. If you happen to be watching online on YouTube, when you watch, please text to Jeanette Hamilton your name and the date that you've watched so she can keep record of that. Once again, we have a wonderful group of guests. We have, please stand when I say your names so we all can get a picture of you. Emily Tom is a guest of Susan Marsh and Weta Cack. Kathleen Brown is a guest of Stuart Cobb. Christy Lund is the niece and guest of Joanne Reddick. Mimi Hurst is the guest of Jennifer Wilson Harvey. Sally Martins is a guest of Nancy Griffith. And my guest is Lenny Massinelli. Dana Nixon is the chair of hostesses today, and I will have her come up and tell you about the wonderful decorations. They're everywhere.
Fellow estates, Madam President, guest, we have a lot. That's really good. So nature is God's art. It gives us lots of leeway on things to do. My committee was Sandra Mangum and Jeffrey McKimmey, who are, I understand, friends and golfers too. So we've got a lot of things from Jeffrey: seahorse pictures, some dolphin pictures that she took. We've got lots of shells and sea glass from all of us. We've got flowers from all of us. The pig is Mahalika, and the orange on the back I think is too, but her flowers are wonderful and natives from her yard. The rest of the flowers are from my yard, of course, and most of them are natives, but not all of them. We've got a book on Angkor Wat, which is, of course, not entirely nature, but it's taken over so much, I thought that would be an interesting one for you all to see. The art that I brought over here, the picture on the left, the woman's art is fascinating. She takes pictures of insects, and then through a microscope, she blows up the various parts of the insects and hones in on things she thinks are fascinating to repeat. And I've got several of her pieces. She's a Colorado artist, but fascinating colors. And the other one is just butterflies made from various pieces of nature. We've also got deer sheds. We've got coral from Croatia. I've got amber from Russia, and a geode from a shop in Calico Rock. I think that's it. Anyway, thank you all.
Okay, our quote of the day up here, as you can see, is nature is the art of God. It says unknown, but in our booklet, we attributed it to Dante Alighieri. His dates are 1265 to 1321, remembered for the Divine Comedy. That's his most famous work, considered the greatest literary work in Italian. Instead of being written in Latin, as was done in those days, he wrote in an accessible form of Tuscan Italian, the language of the people, including some Latin and other regional dialects. And that was really radical because everyone who could read it, not just the church fathers or the monarchy. It describes his journey through hell, purgatory, and finally to paradise. Although in a modern context, the term comedy may seem out of place, in the classical sense, the word comedy refers to works that reflect belief in an ordered universe. This is reflected in our quote, in which events tend toward not only a happy ending or an amusing ending, but one influenced by some will that orders all things to the ultimate good. Questionable, as today we learn about earthquakes and floods. Our chairman of the day today is Marilyn Porter. She is substituting as chairman of the day for Jennifer Ronnell, who is traveling. She and I both grew up on famous earthquake fault lines. She grew up in Blytheville, the center of the New Madrid fault line. She's counting the days until the next earthquake. Blytheville is right on the Mississippi River. Marilyn reports that growing up, she was never allowed to put her toe into the river. And the mighty Mississippi was treated with great respect. Her passion is in curating art for others as well as herself. Marilyn is also an advocate of the National Cold War Museum in Blytheville. She says she is available for tours of that museum. Marilyn?
Thank you, Madam President. She didn't tell you how much I charged for those tours, though. I'm happy to be here today, and I have a great honor of being able to introduce the talented people that stand before you. And these are exceptional pieces all over the wall. Y'all did such a great job, Dana. The first speaker of the day is, have I left anything out? Okay, good. Okay, is Linka Horkova, and she joined that aesthetic club in 2022. She's a native of Czechoslovakia Republic. She came to Arkansas as a teenager to learn English, and a few years later received a scholarship from the Donaghy Scholars Program to study UA Little Rock. After that, she received a scholarship to get her MBA. Lincoln did not anticipate that she would fall in love with the Little Rock man, especially the really cute ones, and her life would be completely changed. More than a quarter of a century later and 20 years of a happy marriage to her husband, Trip Strauss, she loves living in Little Rock. It took her some time. Okay. Her international background served her well throughout her career. She spent a decade working for the Arkansas Department of Commerce as the business director for Europe. That's a big job, and led several investment and trade missions to Europe for Governors Beebe and Hutchison. Later, she worked as a trade consultant and was elected as the first female chair of the Arkansas District Export Council. Linka speaks Czech and English, and some German and a little bit of Russian. I only speak Southern. I am pitiful. I took Latin, it was horrible. Since 2014, Linka has served as the first ever Czech honorary consul for the state of Arkansas, supporting bilateral relations between her home country and her home state. She organized 5 Czech film festivals in Little Rock and has welcomed various Czech ambassadors and artists to Little Rock. Linka is passionate about her community. She's joined several nonprofit organizations, including the Donaghy Foundation of UA Little Rock, the Donaghy Scholars Alumni Society Board, Vice President, the Arkansas Women's Leaders Forum, she's president, the Winthrop P. Rockefeller Cancer Institute Foundation Fund Board, past chairman, I won't tell anybody that means she can raise some money, right? And the Rotary Club Program Committee, and the Little Rock Sister Cities Commission, past vice chair. Busy, and she always seems to be the one in charge. That's awesome. In her free time, she enjoys painting and learning about art. We need to get together. She likes to travel, swim, practice yoga, and read. Thank you, Linka, for being here.
Madam President, Madam Chairman, fellow estates and guests, what's shaking? I don't believe anyone in this room was old enough to remember, but there was once a magnitude 8 earthquake in Arkansas, the largest earthquake ever recorded in the continental United States. In some places, the Mississippi River briefly flowed backward. Actually, I'm certain that none of you remembered because it happened in 1812. Events like this make me wonder what exactly is going on beneath our feet here in Arkansas. When I was assigned the topic for my paper titled What's Shaking, I was excited. Even though talking about the creation of the state's topography may sound dry, I imagine it instead as a journey across Arkansas through time. Ladies, I would like to invite you to join me on a field trip in which we cross the mountains and valleys of our beloved state and use a time machine to travel way back in time before any humans lived here. Arkansas may not look dramatic today, but the story of Arkansas is a story of fire, oceans, mountains, diamonds, and yes, an occasional earthquake. The prologue to this story began 14 billion years ago with the Big Bang. Slide. How fun and how appropriate for the beginning to be celebrated by fireworks, isn't it? To have a better grasp of what 14 billion years are in the context of our short human lifespan, I will borrow an analogy from Samantha Harvey's novel titled Orbital. Let's imagine that the Big Bang occurred on January 1st of a cosmic calendar. If we use this hypothetical starting point, the first galaxies were born near the end of January. About 2 billion years later, around March 16, the Milky Way was formed. A 6 billion year summer passed before our sun with its planets appeared at the end of August. On September 14, 4 billion years ago, life emerged in the form of single-celled organisms. It was not until December 20th that plants finally made their way onto land and things began to get more interesting. At the very end of December on this cosmic calendar, about 500 million years ago during the Paleozoic era, the geological foundation of Arkansas was born. Slide. During that time, Arkansas was largely covered by sea. The waters to the north were warm, like the waters around the Bahamas today, and supported corals and other small plants and animals. Approximately 300 million years ago, during the so-called Pennsylvanian period, there was a lot of shaking and moving in the Earth's surface. Land masses north and south of Arkansas were squeezed, twisted, and eroded. The seabed was uplifted and created what we know as the Ozark Mountains and Ouachita Mountains. Even today, traces of those ancient seas remain. If you're lucky while hiking, you may find shark teeth fossils in the Ozarks. On our cosmic calendar, dinosaurs would appear on Christmas Day during the Mesozoic era, or 230 million years ago. Slide. Plant-eating sauropods, with their long necks, were roaming the southern part of our state with their friends, the two-leg meat-eating theropods. And just like Arkansas has an official state flower, we also have an official state dinosaur. Let me introduce you to Arkansaurus. I don't want to make fun of our official dino, but it looks like an overgrown ostrich who needs a pedicure. This balmy tropical world I'm describing didn't last forever. The Earth significantly cooled down 66 billion years ago, and about half of the species on Earth became extinct, including the dinosaurs. Slide. The Cenozoic era began 65 million years ago and continues today. During its first period, known as the Tertiary, both the Ozarks and Washita Mountains were eroded several times and uplifted again until they formed the surface we recognize today. Up until 50 million years ago, the Gulf of Mexico could not make up its mind whether it wanted to be in southern Arkansas or not, and it came and went several times. As the ocean receded and we lost our chance to have a seaside resort in Arkansas, the landscape was traversed by large rivers that rework the land. 2 million years ago, the Mississippi Delta and Crowley's Ridge were formed, and Arkansas had reached its present shape. On New Year's Eve of our cosmic calendar, large Ice Age mammals such as primitive horses, saber-toothed tigers, and mammoths roamed the region. After the last glaciers retreated 10,000 years ago, the climate of Arkansas became like what we experience today. Slide. Due to its complex geological history, Arkansas has 6 distinct natural areas with its own topography, unique rocks, fossils, and different economic resources. They are the Ozark Plateau, the Arkansas River Valley, the Washita Mountains, the Gulf Coastal Plain, the Mississippi Alluvial Valley, and the Crowley's Ridge. Now let's have a look at these individual areas of Arkansas, starting with the Ozark Plateau. Slide. The Ozark Plateau was formed when ancient seabed was uplifted into a broad dome. Over millions of years, streams carved the plateau into the rugged hills and valleys we recognize today. Another mountainous area in Arkansas is the Washita Mountains. Slide. They are older than the Rockies and run east-west, unlike most North American mountain ranges. These mountains formed 300 million years ago and were once as tall as the Himalayas. Minerals such as barite, novaculite, and quartz are abundant here and are mined for commercial purposes. This area is also famous for its hot springs. Slide. Between the Ozarks and the Washita Mountains lies the Arkansas River Valley. This is our region. This region contains isolated flat-top mountains such as Mount Nebo, Petit Jean Mountain, and Pinnacle Mountain. The next 2 geological divisions are the Mississippi Alluvial Plain or Delta, and the smallest one of them all, Crowley's Ridge. Slide. The delta that covers the eastern third of Arkansas was once beneath the waters of the Gulf of Mexico and was later reshaped by rivers that deposited the deep, fertile soil found here today. Crowley's Ridge is 200 miles narrow ridge that rises from flat delta and runs from Missouri to Helena. Beneath that same region lies the New Madrid seismic zone, one of the most hazardous seismic areas in eastern North America. Slide. You remember what happened in 1812. But here is what scientists think may happen next. According to a report by the Arkansas Geological Commission, there is a 25 to 40% chance of a magnitude 6 or greater earthquake occurring in this region within the next 50 years, and a 7 to 10% chance of a magnitude 7.5 or greater event. At this magnitude, Little Rock would experience prolonged shaking that may damage older buildings and utilities, even though the worst destruction would occur closer to the fault zone. Slide. The last of the natural areas, the coastal plain, covers the southern quarter of Arkansas and stretches from Little Rock to Texarkana. It was also once covered by the Gulf of Mexico. Mining has long been important in this region. Arkansas is a leading global source of bromine, once led the nation in bauxite production, and contains one of North America's largest lithium deposits in the Smackover Formation, an important resource for batteries for cell phones and laptops and renewable energy technologies. But Arkansas' geological story didn't end with mountains and rivers. Deep beneath the earth, another surprise was forming: diamonds. One volcanic eruption, and 95 years later, we have the Crater of Diamonds State Park, the only public diamond mine in the world where visitors can search for diamonds. The first diamonds were discovered by a local farmer named John Wesley Huddleston in 1906. Since then, more than 75,000 diamonds have been found here. One of the largest diamonds ever discovered in the United States, the Uncle Sam, was found on site in 1924 and weighed an unbelievable 40 carats. Other beauties that came from this mine include the 16-carat Amarillo Starlight, the 15-carat Star of Arkansas, and the 8-carat Esperanza. Imagine how excited I became when I read about these spectacular finds while researching this paper. I had the same hopes and aspirations as the early prospectors when I ventured out of Little Rock one November morning en route Murfreesboro to embark upon what I call primary research. Slide. It was supposed to be the last warm day before winter weather set in. However, as my car got closer to the park, it became clear that we were in for a dreary, rainy fall day. I remember a friend telling me that rain is good because it sometimes brings diamonds to the surface, so I maintain a positive attitude. Other people must have had the same idea because the parking lot was full when I arrived, and they were out of rental cars. The wet mud clinging into my boots made me feel as if I had 2 heavy bricks attached to my feet. My plan was to bring back a rock to use as a prop for this paper. But I will spare you the details of digging in wet mud for several hours. Unfortunately, I failed my mission. Ladies, the best bet for diamonds may actually be the Sissy's Log Cabin. And something tells me that you all know this little secret already. Slide. Arkansas today seems peaceful. Rolling hills, quiet rivers, and forests. Yet, beneath that calm landscape lies a story hundreds of millions of years in the making. Oceans rising and receding, volcanoes erupting, and earthquakes powerful enough to reverse the flow of the Mississippi River. The ground beneath our feet may seem still, but Arkansas, geologically speaking, is always just a little bit shaking.
Come on over, baby. Oh,
That was great. I just have to tell y'all that my husband, my late husband, actually had Jerry Lee Lewis as a patient in Memphis, and there was a whole lot of shaking going on. And now, our next treat is the American violinist Catherine Williamson, who joined the Arkansas Symphony Orchestra in 2013 and assumed the assistant concertmaster's post in the fall of 2019. Williamson started her tenure with the orchestra as an arts partner with the Rockefeller String Quartet. A passionate educator. She has been the director of the ASO String Academy since 2019 and also serves on the faculty of the Faulkner Chamber Music Festival. Named Classical Innovator by the Arkansas Times in 2018, she believes that all Arkansans should have an access to inspiration through the power of world-class classical music. We do. Music has taken Miss Williamson from the rolling hills of the Meadowmount School of Music in New York to the mountains of Breckenridge and to the, okay, good luck on this one, Konzerthaus stage in Berlin. I'm going to let her pronounce that correctly. Germany. She has played as a semifinalist with the New World Symphony, been an associate member of the Chicago Civic Orchestra, and an extra in the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra. A native of St. Paul, Minnesota, she still maintains musical connections to her home state as a freelance violinist with the Minnesota Orchestra and until 2019 as a section violinist for the Mill City Summer Opera. Williamson earned a Bachelor's of Music with the distinction from the Jacobs School of Music at Indiana University in 2012. She currently resides in Little Rock with her rescue dog, Billy. Now, Catherine, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, that was the concert house in Berlin, so you nailed it. That was perfect. So pleased to be here this afternoon. I just wanted to say a few quick words about what I'm going to be playing. I'm going to be playing 3 short selections. Last week, I was reading this article in the Times by Melissa Kirsch, and this kind of evokes a bit what I'm planning to present to y'all today, kind of this distinction in this lovely month of April, this sort of marriage between winter and spring that we're all experiencing here. And she says, if you look closely, you can observe the tulips quivering in the gusting wind, people in shorts and people wearing mittens on the same block, stepping onto the porch to see a robin and instead seeing your own breath. So I thought it would be appropriate today to play a few sort of selections that have to do with spring and with birdsong and with imagery that we see during this time of year. So the first thing I'm going to play for you is a snippet of Beethoven's Spring Sonata, which was given that title actually after it was created by Beethoven by one of his editors to get people to buy it. And it worked. It's everybody, we all love this piece. Then I'm going to play the slow movement from Vivaldi's Spring Concerto, which was written in 1718. And it's supposed to mimic a goat herd sleeping in a pasture. And the last one is by a slightly lesser known composer named Locatelli, who is also a Baroque composer like Vivaldi, who wrote this in 1741. And I thought this tied well into this because he was actually also an amateur theologist and an amateur ornithologist. So very, very fascinating man, and I think you can hear lots of bird song in that last selection. So you'll hear some Beethoven, some Vivaldi, and some Locatelli. Hope you enjoy.
I got so carried away, I almost forgot to come back. That was beautiful. Such talent. Uh-oh. Hold on. Last but not least, excuse me just a minute. I got to get my little notes together. Tracy. Oh, sorry. Tracy grew up in Little Rock and went to college in Texas A&M and majored in industrial engineering and computer science. She wandered her way back to Little Rock after meeting her Razorback husband in Houston. They have 2 grown children who both now live in Lafayette, Louisiana, so she's burning up the roads to see her grandchildren, I'm thinking. She visits 2 of them there. She spent her entire career working with computers, most of it at Systematics, Autel, and FIS. She's grateful to be in retirement and have time for Tuesday afternoon meetings. She joined the Aesthetic Club in 2025, and this is her first paper. They're going to be really mean to you, so be careful. Tracy volunteers her time supporting small solar installations to homes off the grid in Honduras via the nonprofit Solar Under the Sun. As a former Commodore of the Grand Maumelle Sailing Club, she is currently in the membership chair and Learn to Sail education chair. She is also completing her 2nd and final year as class president of the American Y Flyer Sailing Association. The Y Flyer is an 18-foot, 2-person sailing dinghy. Lakes and sailing especially are her happy place. Tracy's paper topic is personal to her. Our low water levels at Lake Maumelle this spring have caused the cancellation of 2 invitational regattas. While water levels vary yearly, the lake typically fills back up in the spring. This year, significant rains are needed, and which have not come, so sailing programs are watching with anticipation. What a great day we've had today, and this is going to just top it off. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Marilyn. Madam President, Madam Chairperson, fellow seats and guests, our topic today is water, friend or foe. First slide. The natural state is the official nickname for Arkansas. It reflects its pristine landscapes with clear lakes, free-flowing streams. It is home to the Buffalo National River, America's first federally protected stream. Talking about Arkansas's amazing natural waters flows smoothly with our quote of the day, "Nature is the art of God," from Dante Alighieri. Water in Arkansas is a vital resource for residents, agriculture, and industry. But there are both advantages and challenges related to its availability and use. We will discuss some of those after a quick science lesson courtesy of the U of A Division of Agriculture. Next slide. Water is a finite resource. It's non-renewable. The water we use today is the same water that has been used for millions of years. It is continuously circulating and being recycled through a process called the hydrologic cycle. And that's what we've got pictured here. And if y'all think back to junior high science, this might be familiar. The processes in the cycle influence water availability at a specific location at a particular point in time. Population increases, rising living standards, and industrial and economic growth are contributing to changes in the hydrologic cycle. Not only is the world using more water, but it's discharging more wastewater. Surface water is the most visible part of the cycle. It refers to the bodies of water above the ground, such as streams, rivers, and lakes. Surface water is naturally replenished by precipitation, such as rain and snow, and also from groundwater percolating up. Many of our large population counties rely on surface water for drinking water. Water stored below the Earth's surface is called groundwater. This water is the result of past precipitation or from seepage, where water infiltrates the ground from rivers and lakes. Groundwater is stored and found in aquifers. In Arkansas, groundwater typically discharges from aquifers to replenish rivers, lakes, or wetlands. Much of the groundwater consumption in Arkansas comes from two major aquifers located in the eastern part of the state. The Mississippi River Valley Alluvial Aquifer, some of the same terminology as our previous talk, and the Sparta-Memphis Aquifer. Water is our friend. Arkansas is blessed with abundant water. Most of our recreational lakes were man-made during the 1950s and 60s. These lakes provide opportunities for fishing, boating, kayaking, swimming, things we love, making water a wonderful resource for tourism. Arkansas is known nationwide for our duck hunting and also our trout fishing. Water from the state's rivers and lakes support irrigation for Arkansas's agricultural industry. The state is a major producer of rice, soybeans, and poultry, all of which rely on consistent water supplies. An irrigation infrastructure of rivers, reservoirs, and canals has been built to support these agricultural needs. Water is a critical component for industries in Arkansas, particularly for power generation, food processing, and manufacturing. The state's access to cheap and abundant water resources is a key factor in maintaining our healthy economy. Water availability makes hydroelectric generation facilities popular. And I had no idea we had quite so many hydro facilities in Arkansas. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers operates facilities on Beaver, Bull Shoals, Norfolk, and Greers Ferry Lakes, and also on the Arkansas River. Energy Arkansas operates dams on Lake Catherine and Lake Hamilton, and then Arkansas Electric Cooperatives operates dams on the Arkansas River at Morrilton and Dumas. So we are lucky for all that cheap electricity that they provide. Water can be our foe. Floods are one of the most commonly occurring natural hazards in the United States. Areas handle too much rain differently depending on the soil type, its saturation, and the topography of the area. Natural flooding, though, is really essential and beneficial to wetlands and bottomland forests found in Arkansas. Lower floodplain levels are naturally flooded each year in Arkansas about 40% of the time. And that's if the duck hunters are lucky, I think. When you Google flooding in Arkansas, you see numerous mentions of flash flooding throughout the state the last few years. Flash floods are the most dangerous type of flood. The 2010 Little Missouri River flood at the Albert Pike Campground killed 20 persons. Our worst flood, though, was in 1927. And this was all new to me when I was doing the research. In the 1920s, a system of levees was constructed to hold back waters along the rivers that tended to overflow their banks, such as the Mississippi and the Arkansas. Farmers then expanded their fields into these new land areas that were now safe, fertile, low-lying areas. Abundant rains in the summer of 1926 were followed by more rain the following spring in the Midwest and also in Arkansas. Little Rock saw 7 inches in a few hours in April 1927. The grounds were saturated, the rivers were full, the Mississippi River backed up into the Arkansas, White, and St. Francis rivers. The levees couldn't hold. 6,600 square miles of land was flooded. In September 1927, National Geographic said that the streets of Arkansas City, that's a town along the Mississippi River, were dry and dusty at noon. But by 2 p.m., mules were drowning on Main Street faster than people could unhitch them from wagons. That's just crazy. And homes and stores stood for months in 6 to 30 feet of murky water. Arkansas City was flooded until August. The flooding impacted 8 states, but the worst destruction was in Arkansas. In some places, the Mississippi River was 60 miles wide. And that's a visual that's just amazing. Refugee tent camps were established to house the homeless. Animals also had to be relocated. Diseases spread in these camps. The flooding also drew attention to the harsh life of sharecroppers that had been displaced when their farms were flooded. The flood was said to have spurred migration of Black sharecroppers who had tired of farming, poverty, and debt. They moved north to jobs in cities like Chicago and Detroit. The vast impact of the flood also appeared to lead to a change in attitudes regarding the government's role in helping its citizens in times of crisis. This led to increased support of Roosevelt's New Deal programs in 1932. Arkansas also suffered another major flood in 1937. They rebuilt the levees along the Mississippi, and they held, but 11 other Arkansas waterways overflowed. Homes and crops were again wiped out. 11 additional states were flooded, and all previous American Red Cross records were shattered. Luckily, Arkansas had less of an impact than the other states. The story of the 1937 flooding of the town of Diaz was made popular years later by Johnny Cash in the song 5 Feet High and Rising, and that was in 1959. More recently, we've had major flooding along the Arkansas River in 2019 and in the Arkansas Delta in 2025. The Delta flood caused 6 counties to lose half of their planted crops and was only exceeded in recent memory by the 2019 flood, which caused over $1 billion in damage. Arkansas is the 3rd largest user of groundwater in the United States. We are behind California and Texas. That is unbelievable, considering our populations are so much smaller, or ours is. Nearly 95% of the groundwater withdrawals in Arkansas are used for irrigation. The interaction between surface and groundwater is constant. That's the cycle that we've got going on. Streams can go dry and then reappear. Loss of water in aquifers can impact the transitions in the water in other areas. Aquifer levels are a critical resource, and while some areas see minor fluctuations, the long-term trend in many significant aquifers points to decreasing water levels due to human usage and climate impacts, necessitating careful water management in the future. Increased industrial usage may also lead to shortages. Data centers, big in the news these days, especially those for AI, require substantial water for cooling the heat generated by servers. These discussions are top of mind in many Arkansas communities. Residents and environmental advocates have expressed concern about the overall strain on the local water utilities and potential future impacts on water pressure and quality. Looking forward, how do we continue to enjoy our abundant resources and also minimize the negative effects? An updated water plan is due to be completed in 2026, and I Googled it this week, and I think it's August, sometime this summer. Yeah, so they're working on it. The drafts have already been put out there. The plan should address long-term water needs, including infrastructure, quality, and management. Projects are underway to redirect surface water to farmland, reducing reliance on groundwater. So that means taking it out of the lakes, and using it someplace else, but then the people in the lakes don't like that either, so it's kind of tough. The state offers incentives to encourage farmers to adopt more efficient irrigation practices and use surface water instead of groundwater. The data center industry is now promoting more efficient cooling methods, such as a closed-loop system that utilizes wastewater. The specific water usage data, though, for data centers is generally not publicly available. But it's something that we may need to closely monitor in the future. And kind of as I'm driving out here, and they had on the radio an article or a little blurb about the fact that California, LA, I believe, is just about ready to officially start using their treated wastewater as drinking water. They've been working on that for years, and I know it gets some, and I think they've worked out the kinks. Maybe it tastes better than it did a few years ago. So the cost to do that retreatment, basically to just have a loop, they said is so much cheaper than like desalination and things like that. So that was really interesting and timely. Weather research is also key to understanding the changes that may be occurring in our hydrologic cycle. Whether these changes are due to climate change or just natural deviations, more accurate predictions will provide value in planning for flooding. In closing, Arkansans are lucky to have abundant water resources, but we must also be mindful of their strength and the critical role that they play in our lives. Thank you.
We're a little bit ahead of schedule today. That's because I was probably talking too fast, but we are now adjourned. Is that what I was doing? Okay, thank you.